All right, welcome to another edition of the Franklin Community High School Career Exploration Project. Today I'm joined by Jason Scott. Jason is the BIM coordinator and detailer at DEEM First, as you can see by the shirt that he is wearing. Jason, first of all, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I know you got a busy day today, but
Yep.
appreciate your time.
Yeah. The company is, it's deemfirst.com is the website. And so that's why say Deem First. And I think there's a reason behind that. I haven't been able to figure that out, but we're a mechanical electrical company in that we build and fabricate large buildings, electrical lines, mechanical HVAC groups, the ducts and all that stuff. So if you ever take a look up in the rafters of, let's say, Franklin's basketball field house, and just imagine all that. Well, in other projects, not that one, we didn't work on that one, but we did Lucas Oil as one of our projects. So, but I've only been there for a year now, so that was obviously done before I showed up there. But I've had a very interesting career in other fields and other things.
Yeah, why don't you just kind of give us an update on what you have done previously that have kind of led you to where you're at right now, and maybe any education or training that
Right.
you've had before that?
Actually, I mean, it kind of goes back to fourth grade. And before that, I became a very big fan of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, especially the Indianapolis 500. And I just was like, hey, I'd like to go after possibly becoming a designer of IndyCar. Well, that didn't happen because back then, and kind of still today, you have to be British and other variations because well,
Your
Delara
your first name has to be Colin, right?
or
Nigel.
type of Italian
Nigel.
name because that's what Delara is actually
Right,
based on.
right, right.
So, but that's fine. But I kind of went out at that direction. I wanted to go into the mechanical field and um, just made sure that I stayed focused on math and science, kept up with reading because back then and even still today, even though it's on the internet, but you had a lot of trade papers that would come out and you would start reading how this person did this person did that. And then of course, I mean, today we're working with AutoCAD version what would be 24. And when I was in fourth grade, you had AutoCAD 1. So AutoCAD was just coming in, and now AutoCAD really isn't no longer really being used. It's been replaced by other programs basically. Um, so just made sure I got my A's and B's and did what I needed to do to get through, and wound up with quite a few honor rolls. Got on the National Honor Society. I did not do any AP classes. Stayed away from that. I wanted to kind of, but I did do up through calculus at the time. I was a class of 93 at Northwest High School. Went to Ivy Tech. Really wasn't sure where I wanted to go. So I got into the mechanical drafting applied science associate's degree program. Graduated with that in 96 because in 95 I picked up a electrical drafting position with Weber Manufacturing. They're still around. They're off of Brookville Road on the east side of Indianapolis. Very long, storied company. They did a lot of heat testing, refrigeration testing, cold testing machines, especially during World War II. A lot of your fighter planes that was built in this area was used Weber engineering, Weber manufacturing devices. But I was actually on a new system where we would created automated assembly lines or automated packaging lines. Basically, you would have let's say buckets. Strangely enough, buckets that needed to go to a warehouse or go to another location that was going to get filled with paint, tar, whatever. Well, how do you go from where it's being manufactured to the truck and have it wrapped and ready to go on? All automated, all produced. I was there for about a year and a half, April of 95 to January of 97. By then, I was programming, learned it through my boss, how to program the computer system, that it would hit different photo eyes, go through a scanner. It would scan a barcode that you don't see when you get to the final product. Most of the time, usually it's covered by the label, by whoever uses it to fill whatever is going to go in there, the product that they put in. as an example. And we would do other things, boxes, flat, unfolded boxes, and wrap them up so that, and then literally a device would pick it up, sit it on the truck, and then someone with a forklift would push it on back to, if it was a larger truck or a semi rig. Left that to go to Glasscraft, looking for possibly to move up in engineering wise through either training or an opportunity to work through school to IUPUI. Didn't stay there very long. There was a lot of things that happened. Wound up going to Dahlman Industrial and wound up designing ATM kiosks there. Drive up ATM kiosks. We would get the specs from the different various ATM manufacturers at the time, which was Diebold, NCR, and Fujitsu was the big three at the time. This is 1998 and 1997 to 1998. And we would create walk-up routines. We had to build mock-ups for the clients to see what exactly they were doing. And that was right at the beginning of 3D rendering. And I was learning that at the same time. Did a lot of, I guess you would say, continuing education programs, and got into that. But then they wanted to go a different way. I wanted to do something else. So I wound up going to Beam and Associates, an architectural firm. And because I was open to all new things, I went from electrical drafting to mechanical design, both at Glasscraft and at Beam, at Dahlman Industrial, and then went to Beeman, kind of like, hey. Oh, side note to that, which unfortunately, even though I was there during the month of May in 1998, I had a design of mine sitting on the start-finish line on the outside of the main straightaway alongside of Georgetown Road. It was an ATM kiosk for a client of ours, and I designed that one. I built, my name. If you ever were able to find the drawings, because that company is no longer around, my initials would be on those drawings. So in a way, I designed something that wound up being on the finish line of the Motor Speedway.
Yes.
The race car, but something else.
Doesn't matter.
So in a way, I got my dream of having something be seen at the Motor Speedway. So that was pretty cool. But actually, that was when my transition was happening, was about that time. And they were moving in a different direction. And I was like, I don't want to go that direction. I'm going to go somewhere else. Wound up going to Beeman, becoming a drafter again, just doing drawings. And then they were putting together their first computer network. And I had some knowledge of computer repair, doing some for friends and family, and wound up at one time being a manager of 20 different computers, a network of 20 plus computers, installing, repairing, building, and keeping a company running for almost 20 years until the owner decided to retire last year, and put out some feelers and wound up where I'm at now, where my main job is to take the Revit model. Revit is the BIM program, the let's see here, the Building Information Modeling program that we use, which is what BIM is short for. And I go through and confirm that the pipe lengths are correct, because on one project, we can do 20 feet long pipes. That's the usual typical length that we get from the factory. You can go on the back of a semi or a flatbed and go to the field at that length. But then you get to where you have higher level of buildings, third floor and up, they have to be shorter, because now you got to put them on a box elevator. And those box elevators don't get any bigger than 12 feet sometimes, maybe even shorter. So there are times that we have to do 5 foot lengths. But anyways, and we have to go around it. Maybe somebody else is doing the HVAC, someone maybe else doing the electrical. And so we have to make sure we don't conflict. We don't work we check into that. There is a coordinator. I'm working that way here in the next year or the next few years. I'll be heading that direction. They are liking my attention to detail. And that's the thing. In school now, your focus is to pass, but also it is to be detailed. Make sure that you know why X plus Y is equal to Z. Learn that. By having that mental exercise, then they will help in other fields. You may go after, like I said, I went after mechanical drafting, mechanical design, and I spent 22 years in the architectural and electrical world. I've only spent now 2 years in the mechanical field. So, and even now, my field, my job at DEEM, yes, I'm taking the BIM model, putting it into another programming, which we call publishing. We publish it to a Stratus program. The Stratus program, we go in and we create the spools. The spools are, or assemblies, and they are, okay, this pipe and this connector, and maybe, depending on what we can do, we'll add a few other pipes and connectors to this assembly. Then I create a spool that then is taken by the fabrication part of our company, and then they cut the pipe through a saw that uses Stratus, and they can literally hit a button and, okay, I'm using this assembly number. I need to cut this length of pipe. I have a 15-foot pipe sitting here because I've already cut off 5, and it knows that, okay, I need to cut a 10 or a 3 or 2 or whatever inches and those type of things.
Right.
To where the assembler puts it together, wraps it up with the name tag or a print label or whatever, and then puts it on the truck, and it gets out to the field, and they literally can just grab it and put it in. Mm-hmm. There are times, though, we will have to just create the model, create where it's going to go, and then we send a ISO 3D map, and the field guy will go, okay, I know I have to have this length of pipe, these connectors, and he'll build it out there because it's in a rush and they can't really wait for the fab shop. And there's a give and take all the time to that. The other parts of my job is sometimes secretarial stuff, office supplies, checking in on the plotters. They've taken my expertise or my knowledge with the IT stuff. I'm not where the IT guys are at in this company, but they know that I have some idea of day-to-day work. And so it's kind of helped them to where our office part, I can do some small things before we go and have to run it up the flagpole in the company, because IT department is sometimes the last thought of group. And so you have, and right now we have, I think, 3 or 4 IT guys for a company that is not only here in the Indiana in the levels of maybe 500 people, but we have offices and regional offices throughout the Midwest, Ohio, Missouri, Illinois. I think there's one in Nebraska that are different sales and service shops that we've done. The 2 projects, I'm working on a project with Purdue. I'm working on a project with we're just finishing up a project with the Columbus Crew in their new stadium. So, it's you go after something and be open to change and be open to learn new things, and you'll be surprised where you might go.
Right. Now, I know you had talked about you had gone to Ivy Tech now, and then you had mentioned something about looking into going IUPUI, but they never did. Now, did you ever go back?
I've only went the 2-year degree with Ivy Tech. I've done a continuing education for computer repair with IUPUI. That was like a 3-day class. I did 3D studio training for about a week, and it's just various things. And fortunately, in my field, they go by work experience.
Right. Yeah. So it seems to me, and I've talked to several people who this has been similar to, with you are essentially like
jack of all trades.
Yeah, or an engineer, like a mechanical engineer type. Without
we have a couple engineers in our building that they go, okay, we need this. They literally would take the drawings that I used to work on at Beeman, and then they go, okay, now we need to know. Now we actually need to show this pipe being a 2-inch pipe. Oh, this over here has to be 5 inches because it's coming off the supply. Oh, wait a minute, it's coming off the toilets. We need a 6-inch pipe for the sanitary. And then a coordinator or me would go in and go, okay, we've got this stick figure with the actual sizes confirmed, and now we've got to draw it in 3D so that we can take it and move it through the fabrication process and then install. So there is some, I wouldn't say trigonometry or calculus is always needed in my field, but geometry, a very hands-on knowledge and ability to add large numbers together or divide large numbers is a very key habit to have. I call it a habit because it's something you have to train yourself.
Right.
It's like I was telling my kids the other day, okay, let's bring it down to giving change. You know, a quarter is 25 cents, a dime is 10, and a nickel is 5, and a penny is 1. You need to give this amount of change. What is it? Oh, wait a minute. Why is a quarter called a quarter? Why is an eighth called an eighth? And it's because it takes 8 more or 7 more to make 8 of them to make 1.
Right.
And all that is just common.
Just kind of the problem solving.
It's another trick or thing that I do is I look at license plate numbers and starting adding each individual number together. And then you get a 9 plus 9, that's 18. Well, you take that 1 and an 8, and now you have the last. And it's just sitting there doing math problems just to keep your mind going,
right,
even when you're not at work. Not and it just it's exercises here and there that
right,
because when you're looked at, okay, so we've got this 4-foot pipe, 3-foot 3 1/8 pipe, and this 2-inch pipe over here. So how much pipe do we need? That's 7 foot and 2 1/8.
Yeah.
You got it. It's and what is this angle here? Granted, sometimes you don't have to sit there and think about it, but if you have the computer in front of you, but if you don't, then you got to go through and go to the
figure it out.
Yeah. So it's you maybe. I also work with the 500 Festival Education Program whenever we've been allowed to before COVID. Hopefully, again, we'll be able to do it again. And I get to do a presentation sometimes, and I'll take the history of the 500 and I'll go, you know, this program is to teach you the history, but the thing is, so you to know the history, you have to read. And then also, but then there's math in there. How many years ago was it when Rick Mears won his 4th race? How many years ago was
30?
Yeah, I mean, it's, but the kids are sitting there going, and that's where you need to work on your math skills and your science skills. It's okay, so Rick Mears, when he ran 220 miles per hour in 1988 for the very first time at the Motor Speedway, he came into, the story goes, he comes into the pits and the crew goes, well, how'd it go? And he goes, I can't remember. And they're like, what? He goes, yeah, I remember going to turn 1 and then coming out of turn 2, but I cannot tell you what happened between there. And I'm sitting there going, when I heard the story, I'm like, how did he do that? It was all muscle memory, obviously. But what was happening, they took a scientist and they said, okay, what's going on? Well, at this speed, the air is coming up over the car into the cockpit, creating a pressure system, basically, that his body and his helmet wasn't designed to deal with. And so what was happening, he was getting pressure in his ears, didn't pop, didn't think about swallowing. There was not enough vents on his helmet to pass the air through at that speed. And boom, it turned into a science project of now they've got little earbuds that are not only so he can hear the team, but also, oh, it's indicating he's got all this pressure building up. We need to release some air. Or he's got too little pressure in his head. We need to bring some air in.
Huh.
And things like that. So even in racing, as my hobby, you have all 4 major subjects involved. The Motor Speedway is connected to the history of the automobile, which is also then connected to the history of our country. And we were the center. We were Detroit at one time. Where did I learn that? By reading. So it's not, we get into this point of, I want to do this and only this. And unfortunately, a lot of your universities are that way. And I think I'm glad I didn't go that direction. Hate saying that, guys. But if you want to go to the university, have fun, learn, be open to new things. Try to be open to new things, because what you go to school for today may not be what you do tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So with your job, obviously, it's something that you get a wide variety of experiences. That's got to be some of the things that you like. What
Yes,
are some of the things that you don't like about it? What are some of the cons about your job?
it is a little bit of a pressure mill sometimes. You better know what you're doing. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know this. And if you're with a company that isn't going to like that, then I would say move to another company. It's easier said than done, but I've been very fortunate to go, I don't know this. And I've been very fortunate to have people around me go, okay, I'm going to teach you. And when I got this job, I said, hey, I know about from point A to point B, we need these certain sizes on a pipeline, but the intricate details of, oh, we got to go up to do this, we got to go down to do this, I don't have very good knowledge of that. They were like, no, don't worry. We just need someone to come in and detail. We want you to learn because we want to move you up. And hopefully they will do that. I think that my company I'm with, DEEM, appears to be wanting to do that. It's you got to look at it as you're not always going to see the final project or product. In my field, a lot of times, I've been fortunate that a lot of my stuff I can see the final product that I was doing, but there is we have clients that, or clients at other companies that has had expectations that were not meetable, and it's just, that's just the way it works. And so the I really can't put my, because I'm doing this, and then right now I'm working on highlighting why we did what we did. Why is it that our final product doesn't match the engineering drawing or the architectural drawing? And we've got to go in and say, because of this, we had to do this. And it's tedious, but because we can't answer that question, it makes it livable. It makes it workable. Doing the drawings, sometimes creating those spool maps and creating, it is a little challenging, but then because of what I've been able to do and where I've been able to be allowed to do in that, and at DEEM, that's not my only job. And so, okay, I got to spend this maybe the next 2 days doing something I don't really like. But once that's done, I get to go back to over here and start working on the next area of this floor. And I get to go in and, oh, I found this conflict. I need to fix it, because the coordinator that I'm technically working under, he's doing two or three other projects. So he may have drawn whatever he drawn and didn't really have a chance to look at it because he got peeled off to the next project. And so I'm going in and catching those things. So when I hear from our field guys going, hey, it went in perfectly, I did my job. So it's a give and take. It is truly a give and take. It's not always going to be smooth sailing. You may run into a person, or a person gets put in another position. I'm not saying DEEM or just general. You may not like, but
Right.
you have to be open to try to get along with them to get the job done, and hopefully they will do the same. And then when you've done everything you need to do right, and they're still complaining, well, you did your job, and so you don't need to take it home and go "Arr." So yeah, it's there are times that I get snowballed into at Beeman. I got snowballed into, okay, I got to do these 4 machines, and back then it would take me a whole week to fix those 4 machines because you didn't have the automated processes and computers as we do today. And I would have this other project manager going, why isn't my project getting done? And I would literally have to go look at him and go, I've got these 4 computers. This person is doing this part of the project or this other project. This person's working on this project. our boss is telling me to do this. So if you need me to go jump off and do something else, go talk to him.
Yeah.
And it's not good to have this other person mad at you. But if you have checked every base, and so to speak, of knowing what everybody else is, as much as you can know, is doing, when that person comes at you because you're not doing what they want you to do, you can honestly tell them this is why.
Mm-hmm.
And when you honestly can tell them what's happening, then you have nothing to worry about that is in your control. Whatever happens after that sometimes isn't in your control, but you've done what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
I've seen too many people that will jump into something because the boss told them, and then somebody else comes at them and they don't have a way of explaining what's going on because all they were worried about was what they were doing. And it is easy to do that. And sometimes you have to be that way. But for my position at Beeman, I was floating around the office all the time. I could see what people were doing. So I was able to say, you're going to have to wait because we need these 4 computers in because this project is going to require this upgrade. And I'm working on the upgrade. So how am I supposed to work on this part of the project when we're not going to be able to do the rest of the project?
Yeah.
And it's, you got to work with stress. You got to learn about stress, learn how to deal with stress, and to release it in the right way. Sorry about this. David is needing to get to the school here shortly, so I'm trying to.
Oh yeah. So, well, we'll just get you out of here real quick on this last one. Then, just any general advice you have for high school students, anything that you can tell them, just overall, not even career wise.
Just be open to new experiences. Yes, focus on what you think you want to do, but make sure that you can see yourself doing that for 20, 30, 40 years. Is that field? We have been able to see many fields disappear overnight in the last few years, which has happened, but not as, I think, as quickly or as many in history. Be aware of your surroundings, and what you hate the most or class you hate the most right now, don't have the attitude, oh, I got to go in there, I got to do that. No, go in there, like a better phrase, deal with it. But also, you'll find out, you'll learn how to deal with similar situations a lot better by not just mailing it in that class. Do what is expected, do your best, even though it may not be your favorite in your shop class or your lab class or your field class that you're going to go out in the field and work with the horses is the next class. Quit looking beyond where you're at right now. Try to be content of what's going on now so that the teacher in that class may not be the reason why you don't like that or vice versa, but they can teach you things because you're going to learn, if anything, how to deal with that stress when that similar type of stress shows up in your career or everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great advice. And definitely being open to all kinds of experiences is a key.
I mean, it comes back to, I was going one direction and yeah, I had something wind up on the start finish line, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted. And I wound up spending many years in another field. And strangely enough, that during Ivy Tech, they used to do a certified draftsman test. And because I decided to do that and have that on my resume, that got me the job at Beeman.
Right.
No other mechanical or engineering like fields open at the time. And that turned into 20 years of doing architectural drafting, seeing buildings built that I was a part of. There's a flagpole in front of the Indiana Members Credit Union out on Plainfield in Avon on US 36. Right
across from the movie theater, right?
Yes, right in front of the movie theater. And that flag, usually at a Indiana Members Credit Union, when they build a new building, they put the flagpole right next to the building. And I was just a podunk little drafter, but I went to church out that way at the time. And And I knew about a bunch of accidents where people were screaming out of the bar drunk, thinking that road that was behind the bar in front of the movie theater continued on to the bypass road off of 36, and it didn't. It's a big drop off. And I said, hey, can we put a flagpole out there just so there's some lights or something at the end of this area so that maybe people will know that it's not a continuation of the road?
Yeah.
Why we need it next to the building. Please just do it. And I had an architect that I worked with. He was okay with it. After my argument, we argued about it. And he couldn't really argue back on why I think it should have been there. It was like another 10 steps to go get the flag. And they put it there, and I haven't heard of anybody going off that ditch again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's you always open to new things. Be aware, observant. Be observant, and you'll be surprised what that helps you down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jason, thank you so much for your time here. I appreciate it. I know you got to go get your son, so we'll let you go do that. But once again, Jason Scott, the BIM coordinator and detailer at DEEM First. Thank you so much.
Mechanical Electrical. Yep. Thank you.